Hey guys, it's Nat and Carly from Brains, Bods, and Bubbles, and today we're talking about a concept called the window of tolerance that talks about the mind-body connection.
Awesome. Yeah, so basically everybody has a window of tolerance. So Nat has one, I have one, you have one. The window of tolerance, I don't know if you can see my little sketch here, but basically the window of tolerance is the place where you can feel and think at the same time. So I might feel really angry, but I might still be able to think, this is the way I want to respond to that, right? So that's me inside my window. It's basically being our best selves. Now, above the window are kind of the heightened emotions like anxiety, stress, anger, those types of lovely feelings. Below the window would be like depression, feeling really lethargic or tired, the kind of lower feelings. Now, all of these are normal human experiences, so there's nothing wrong with being outside of our window. The only problem is when we're outside of our window, our prefrontal cortex isn't really online as much as it should be, right? So we're maybe not making our best choices. We're maybe responding in ways that we're like, we might feel a little bit like about the next day. That's kind of how it works. So there's a bunch of different ways we can use the window. We can either think of ways to keep it wide enough so that we have lots of wiggle room and we don't need to worry about being bumped outside of our window of tolerance. Or we can think about if I'm outside of my window, so let's say something happened that pushed me up here with all those heightened feelings, what can I do to bring myself back into my window? So I'm wondering, and that I think you might be able to speak to this, is what are some ways where we can keep our window bigger or make it bigger?
Yeah, interesting. And everyone's different, right? But I definitely know for me, if I have a lack of sleep or lack of movement, I'm out of my window. Like it just, there is no window. So for me, making sure I get enough sleep is vital, and getting enough movement. And I think sometimes people think like it's got to be like an hour HIIT class or something super intense. But honestly, for me, it's just getting outside and maybe going for a walk. I think it all comes back to self-care. Like, what is your type of self-care? Making sure that you make time for that, and then you don't feel guilty about it. Like, why do we feel guilty about self-care?
100%.
Right?
I know.
So what is it that makes you feel like you're inside your window and that you are able to be your best self?
Yeah, totally.
Right? That's mine.
100%. Yeah, for me it's food. Like, I am a very hangry person, so I know if I'm driving home from work and I'm like, oh, I haven't maybe eaten in a while and I'm pumped for dinner, but I know that I'm gonna walk through a door and any little thing could set me off, right? Yeah. So it's like really about making sure that I'm fed so that my window's a bit bigger, or else it's super tiny and then the smallest thing can trigger you, right? And then all of a sudden I'm angry when really I don't need to be, right? If I just had a few almonds and maybe, a little snack, my window would be a bit bigger.
Right.
Awesome.
And I think we all know what kind of, when we have a short fuse and we're like, oh my God, I just got really triggered by that. And other times you can like put up with anything, right?
For sure. Oh yeah. Right. Oh, 100%. And that's our window talking to us, really. So the other thing is we can be pushed outside of our window, right? And we've all been there. Maybe multiple times a day we're probably there, right? So the idea is that the body responds first. So before our brains or our emotions, all the other human parts of us go, it's really the body that's going to respond. So what the research tells us is one helpful way to kind of manage with that is to really kind of validate that feeling or acknowledge it at least. So if I'm feeling a big feeling, what the research tells us is we should really clue into our body. So you guys might all need to take some time and kind of try to recognize maybe how your body does respond, because most of us don't even know. Like, what do I feel like when I'm happy? What do I feel like when I'm stressed? What do I feel like when I haven't eaten enough or had enough exercise, whatever it might be? So let's pretend I walk through the door. I haven't eaten all day, and my beautiful husband is maybe sitting on the couch playing video games with his friends, which he's more than allowed to do. Not a problem. However, if I'm hungry, that might really trigger me. And when I say might, I mean, like, does. It just does. Let's be honest. It's fine. But anyway, so what I'm supposed to do, or what I could do to help me, might be, because I feel it right here. I might put my hand on my chest, take a deep breath into that, deep breath into that spot, and really think, okay, so right now I'm being triggered.
Yes. And for me, it's my stomach. Like when I'm like getting triggered, it's my stomach. And it's really interesting that the research says that too, because from a movement side, I always tell my clients when we're waking up this mind-body awareness with movement, to place your hand to the place that's like sleepy or you're not as connected to, and it helps to connect that like external body to the internal body. That your brain is like, oh yeah, I feel this. I'm recognizing that it's right, or we're connected.
Yeah, right, totally. It gives that space for it, right? Because they need to talk.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, because that's where we get help. We're like, oh yeah, God, this is what's going on, or this is what I could do to address what's happening, right?
Right.
Or else we're just kind of like, we're totally like floating heads, right? We're totally disconnected from what's going on below. Yeah, so the idea is doing that can slow your response down enough. You might still respond in maybe a way that you don't want to. Like I might say, what are you doing playing video games? Or I might say nothing. Like I might just breathe into it.
Yeah.
Enough time to say, hi, how was your day? Right? Right. So the idea is it slows it down enough to potentially get ourselves even closer to our window, if not into our window, enough for our brain, the thinking part of our brain, to get back online and say, like, Carly, you don't want to yell at your husband for no reason. Or Natty, like, whatever it might be, right? Like, our brain will then, it gets back online and it works the way it should. So that's one thing, right? And then we might be able to think, okay, what do I need right now? Because I am being triggered. What do I need to help me? Like, I just need something to help me. So we'd be like, okay, well, maybe have a glass of water, get some food in you, maybe turn around and go for a walk.
Totally. And sometimes too, I find for me, I just have to close my eyes, breathe. I totally do the feeling, a check-in, and just like count to 10. Like Carly said, it like slows down that process, kind of shortens or like diffuses the fuse, so you have a moment to think about it, right? And it's important to know that too, like when you are being triggered, okay, how can I get out of this?
Yeah, for sure. And be kind to yourselves, because this isn't like, it's not going to work like this, right? We're not going to be like, okay, perfect. Now that I know I have a window and it's awesome, because next time I'm feeling triggered, I'm just going to be able to shut it down. That's not really the case. And it also depends too on your history, your background, what you've been through, and maybe what your triggers are. So do be kind to yourself if you're like, oh, that didn't work. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah. It
that's
takes practice.
Normal. Yeah,
right?
It does.
Just like anything else. Anything worthwhile takes practice.
100%. And really the first step is just recognizing how does my body respond to things, right? So that's kind of, so it's your homework. It's our homework too.
You hear that? Yeah.
Is maybe this week or this month to really be mindful of how our body responds, not only when we're feeling triggered, but also when we're feeling really great. Because I think it's important to understand, like,
huge.
Like, this is what I feel like when I'm well hydrated, well rested, and well fed.
Totally. And for me, I have to say it out loud. Like, if I'm, like, that goes for anything, like gratitude or anything. But just if I wake up in the morning, I'm like, whoa, I slept really well. I'll say it out loud to myself, like, while I'm washing my face, like, I had a great sleep. I feel awesome. Same with a meal. I'm like, oh, this is an awesome meal. I find for me, I have to say it out loud.
I love that. It's beautiful, for sure. And think about that in terms of the mind-body connection. Is you hear it, you think it, like it's all. I mean, it's amazing. It's really amazing. So, there's just some, something to mull over and kind of bring some awareness to over the next little bit, and then we'll kind of talk about once I've recognized how my body responds, and once I've recognized maybe what some of my triggers are. Because that's also something to look into, because we all have them, unfortunately. The next step is great. Okay, great. Now, how do I use them to make sure I can, or what do I do then to make sure I can either widen my window or stay inside my window, or get back into my window?
Yeah. I love that. So that's your homework, and try and do it like as soon as possible. So if you could do it after you're watching this video, or even tomorrow, just notice how you're feeling. Does a coworker say something that all of a sudden you're kind of like, but then recognize that right away, right? Half the battle, I think, is that awareness. So like Curly said, use that as your homework. Start to work on that awareness of your mind-body connection, that awareness, what triggers you, what makes you feel like you're out of your window of tolerance, what do you feel like when you're in your window? And then we're going to be talking a lot of our topics are going to relate back to this window, both with the psychological aspect and movement aspect. It's all going to relate back to this window.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and cheers.
Cheers. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and we'll get back to you.
You bet.
Bye.
Bye.